Hello and welcome to Get Good. Now I'm back to the axe head of the librarian, and in this video I will be painting the OSL rune. I already painted it on the other side, and well, the main reason that I painted it on the other side was that I wanted to see how it worked with the shiny blade part. So I already did it there even before I started recording it. So I thought I might as well record it on this other side for you guys to see the process. There might be an easier way to do it, but this is my preferred method. The reason why I'm doing it this way is because I feel like I have a bit more control. It's mainly about making high contrast. So I want to be very neat so it doesn't just flood everything in light, because I still want it to be visible. So I want you to be able to see the rune itself, and then the light that it kind of shines onto the axe, the blade part, or the head. So that's why I'm doing it this way instead of just you probably could have just painted over roughly all of the area with your brightest, and then tone it down a bit wherever you wanted to tone it down afterwards. As I said, I just feel like that gives a bit less control, so that's why I don't. And to talk a bit about brushes and, well, equipment in general, I'm painting here with an Artist Opus S size 000 actually. It's the one where I accidentally cut a bit too much of the tip, so it's not very sharp. You can also tell in the video, but it's pretty nice for just putting down a base coat of whatever, because it's still a small brush, so it can get in everywhere you want it to. I'm switching brush to an Artist Opus 00 with a very fine tip, as I need to make the marks. I'm using 2 times magnification, and I'm painting under a rim light. So everything is nice and bright, and I can see all the details. I almost always paint with some form of magnification. It's usually between 1 and 2.5 times. And I will say that for me, it is incredibly important to be able to see everything. The more you can, here you can see how I switched to the smaller brush. It's a 1 size 00, also an Artist Opus. So it has lost a fair few hairs, but it means it's quite sharp, and it can make a very fine line if you want to. Magnification is because when you can see all the details clearly because of light and magnification, you can really do the best job. And the more you're zoomed in, the more you can see the imperfections in a blend, or in a wobbly line, or whatever it is. And that just means that if you can basically fix it to look neater on a smaller scale, it will look good on a bigger scale, or zoomed out, if you will. So it's just to say that if it looks great under 2 times magnification, it looks very good under no magnification. It's not always true, but generally so. Some things, as for example textures and stuff like that, you want to make sure that you can actually see it without the magnification too. But if we're talking a nice even transition and smooth blend, the magnification is really, really nice to have. So quickly talking about what I've done until now, I've just painted the rune very bright. Now I'm basically blocking in the glow on the axe. And I'm trying to be neat so I don't have to clean up as much. It is a bit awkward to get to it because you want to get in real close to the rune itself and without painting on the rune, and because it's raised, you can kind of, you have to angle it in a way that makes it so that you can still drag the line, because you don't want to be stabbing with the brush. You want to be either sweeping side to side or dragging the brush towards you. You can see like I'm doing here, where I'm dragging it towards you. But obviously I can't get it right into the tiny corner because I would have to angle the brush basically 90 degrees onto the axe. So it is a bit awkward, but well, you kind of have to. And that's why I'm saying maybe it is easier for you. It gives a bit of a different look if you just flood everything in your bright color, but it is something you can do. So the colors themselves are really, well, it's one color. It's AK mint green, which is the not the darkest, but the second darkest green color, the one I'm dipping here. That is AK mint green. I absolutely love that one for energy weapons, or also power nodes and exhausts and stuff like that. So anything you want an energy glow on, I really, really like this color. It is obviously greenish, which means it's a teal color. But as you add white to it, it goes very pale and a bit bluish towards the end. It's hard to tell the green as you go more towards the white. And I just think it gives such a nice glow, as opposed to just going purely blue. So I've used it a bunch of times. Also, it is even the mint green itself is almost like a fluo color. It has a lot of punch. So yeah, I think it's really good for that. What I've done is I've taken some of the mint green and mixed in a bit of AK rubber black, which is, it's almost black. It's a very, very, very dark gray, but it's basically black. You could put any black into it. It's just to darken it down a bit, because I'm using that color to basically blend the light out onto the blade. And then I've made two mixes of brighter mint green, which is just adding white and then adding even more white. So the recipe itself is, it almost couldn't be easier. And yeah, those are the colors. So that means the mid-tone or the main color is going to be the mint green. And then to make it shine or glow, you use the whiter colors. You could be using purely white too if you wanted to. I didn't, because I wanted a bit more color to show, but it's not that important. You could have had white, then white with a bit of mint green in it, and then mint green, and then the mint green with black in it. It would have been fine too. So how I'm building the OSL effect. I started by blocking the rune in very bright. I will be giving it a bit more color, but I started by blocking that. And I only, the rune itself is raised, which means it has a top flat, and then it has sides. And those sides are, well, it is raised, but not by a lot. But I'm not painting onto those. And that is really important. And very deliberate. I'm not painting onto those. As you can see here, when I'm painting up towards the rune itself, I'm really trying to not get anything on the rune raised, basically side, only painting right up to it. I'm doing that because that means you get kind of a tiny edge between the rune itself and where the glow travels out from it. While that isn't actually fully correct to do, because, well, the light would flood the area. For me, it really helps with basically readability. You want to see, or I wanted to show as something that is raised, so it's an element on its own that shines down on something. And to show that, I leave that tiny basically rubber black edge, because it separates the rune from where the glow starts on the flat part of the axe. It is really hard to only touch on the flat part when you're painting in the line around it or around the rune. If you get some of it on the raised edge of the rune itself, you can go back and fix it. With a bit of rubber black, you just erase it. And if you then accidentally get some of that onto the flat top of the rune, you can just paint over that again. So you're kind of basically fixing mistakes. So I started out by mapping in the glow where I wanted the mid-tone glow to be from the rune, just to see how far I wanted it to travel, and basically if I wanted it to be stronger. I don't want it to be overpowering. I just want the glow from the rune to be there, basically, for interest. So after that, I'm taking the brighter mix of the mint green with a lot of white in it, and I'm tracing that line around the rune, because that it's the brightest part, as it is the closest to the rune. And then I'm trying to basically fade it out from there, which means going through the transition of the mint green with a bit of white in it, and then a bit of mint green again, and then the dark mix of mint green and rubble black. It's not hugely important to be to have it incredibly blended out. This line is fairly thin, so much so that this is practically the smallest brush I have, and it's making the smallest mark I can. If you want something to be even thinner than it is here, you can always cut into a mark. So you can get thinner or even tighter marks if you want to. But this is basically the width of the smallest mark I can make. You want it to be opaque all the way up to the rune. That's why I'm going over it a few times, just to make sure that it is it's an off-white, but it is quite close to white. I don't care if I'm if I spill into the mapped out area of the pure mint green. I don't care too much about it because I will be blending that out anyways. You can see how I'm constantly turning the head of the axe. You might know from the kit that the axe is not separate, or it is held in the hand that is separate. But I put, because it has kind of a weird seam, you want to put it on, have the glue dry, and then possibly scrape or sand it afterwards to smooth it out. Otherwise it will give kind of a nasty looking seam line where it goes onto, where the hand goes onto the body or the arm. So you want to do that before, and because of that I cut the axe head off, because it was definitely too difficult to get to it as he was holding it, the librarian, not even just for videoing but in general. Obviously it would be impossible with videoing because the camera wants to focus what is closest to the camera, so it means if it's attached to the body of the librarian and I have to turn it upside down constantly, it would be a mess. But it's not only that, it's also that it was way too hard to get to, and I wanted to make the blade nice and shiny too, so I ended up cutting the axe head off, and you can see how I've drilled a hole in the bottom of it, and I did the same with the handle, and then I stuck a tiny pin so I can just pin it back on. I suggest doing something like that on, most of your weapons actually. If they aren't separate already, sometimes they are, but not always. And if they aren't, I would try and find wherever you can see a clean way to cut, as I've done here, and then cut it off. It doesn't matter if it's a sword or an axe or a boulder or whatever it is. I would do that because it lets you put more focus, and it's easier to manipulate it basically, as it's not stuck to the model. I do the same with helmets and faces and stuff like that, because there are some different areas that you really want to put some effort and some emphasis on. Weapons and helmet or the face, and then chest and shoulder area, because then you've kind of established the focal point. And if those are nice, well, the rest of the model isn't that important. Obviously, if it's for competition or something you want to really display, you need to finish everything to a high standard. But for example, if it's a character for an army or something like that, having the weapon very nice looking, face, chest, maybe the shoulders, you're basically there. Here you can see I've started blending it out. I did that like the line around the rune. Now I'm just gone back to mint green to blend it out. As I said, you don't have to be incredibly neat. The scale of this is small, especially as I look through magnification, so you can't really tell. That's one thing, but another thing is because it's an OSL effect, your eyes and your brain is kind of interpreting it as something that shines and that glows. So you already kind of blur everything together a bit as you look at it. So you don't have to make that, because the transition here is like, it's a couple of millimeters maybe. So it is very small, and you're going through the steps of 4 different colors. So just be mindful that you can spend ages on blending it and blending it and blending it if you're doing it with a brush and not an airbrush. And you really don't have to. Just be mindful that you use the mint green with a bit of black in it to kind of fade it out onto the flat of the blade. Talking a bit about why the OSL effect, because there are really a couple of reasons. One of the reasons for the OSL effect here is that, well, it's a power weapon. And generally I want to show some kind of power OSL on the power weapons. Some of these power weapons are painted in a different style. The style being kind of having all of the blade in this almost kind of energy pattern or energy colors. The same goes for power swords, for example. We know the whole undulating from bright to dark to bright to dark on the power swords, stuff like that, which is fine. I just want to paint it different, especially because when the power weapons go with the power shields, you're not really painting an entire power shield in that undulating energy color scheme. So for them to go better together from a consistency point of view, I'm only really painting the nodes in the OSL effect. So for example, on a power shield, it would be the nodes painted. Power swords, the node. On a librarian power axe like this, instead of the node, it has that librarian rune instead, and I'm painting that as the node, or in the same vein I would the node. So that's why I'm painting a power or a glowy rune in the first place. That means I'm not painting like the sharp part of the blade, I'm not painting the power weapon colors. Maybe you have already watched me paint the shiny blade part. If you haven't, you should. It looks really nice when it's finished. But in that video you can see how the two, like the rune and the blade part, interact with each other or look together. And I really enjoyed the look of that, because you can clearly tell that it's supposed to be a sharp weapon, and then it has that power effect too. The other reason that is much more pronounced on a power axe like this, not as much on a, not even power shield but power sword, it wouldn't be the same either. But on the on the power axe, it's also a matter of having the flat part of an axe, right? So when you're painting non-metallic metal on the sharp part or something being curved or something like that, it is kind of easy to make it look shiny. When you have the flat of an axe, it's not very easy, which means you would have to do some kind of shenanigans on the flat part anyways. You would probably not have it show up as shiny as the polished blade part, which means it ends up looking a bit boring and a bit dull anyways. So having the rune and painting a like a node, or this like power rune it is, on there with an OSL from it, makes it basically so that I can forgo having non-metallic metal showing on the flat part entirely. That means I can focus on the sharp part of or polished part of the blade, both on the front and also on the back. And then I only have the black triangle kind of area to worry about making the non-metallic work on. So yeah, for interest and ease, I chose to go for more of an OSL look. So to have the OSL work, you also need it to be very, very bright, almost to the point of white, and then fade into something very, very dark. It's very hard if the background had been like a shiny metal, for example, like a bright steel or silver or whatever. Putting on a rune that is clearly shiny or glowing is very hard. You really want the contrast between the dark background and the shiny element. Otherwise it doesn't really work, and that goes for all kinds of OSL. You need to have it show in a dark area. Otherwise, if you're lighting a torch, for example, but it's on a very bright model in a bright environment, you can't really show that it's shining and casting any light on anything. So the OSL effect is kind of lost. So that's how I painted in the OSL rune. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.